Night, everyone, and welcome back. It's your favorite doctor, Dr. Nero, and tonight we have with us tonight we have Brent and Elena or Elena. I butcher names from time to time, so please forgive me for that. I call her Ellie.
Elena, yes.
I call her Ellie. So we have Brent and Ellie with us tonight, and they are gonna answer some questions for us. We're just gonna have a little rapport, talk, chat. Feel free, be open, be honest. That is what we like, right? So I'm gonna start off with an easy one for you tonight. I'll start with Ellie. How did you know your partner was the one?
Well, there's a long story behind that question, but if I am to summarize, I would say it was not one incident in particular, but rather a series of incidents. And in my interaction with him over the period of time that we were friends, I observed him. And seeing him particularly in settings with friends and family members really helped me fall in love with him, because when I saw how he interacted with my family, when I saw the way he interacted with members of his family, when I saw how he operated in the work setting, when I saw him amongst his friends, it helped me to appreciate him, not only for how he loved me, but also for how he appreciated other persons. And that really deepened my love for him and made me realize that he was the one. And there was one incident in particular I could always remember, and I'd always tell him, that really made me solidify in my mind that he was the one, was when my mom got sick. She had a stroke and he just took the forefront. He ensured that she received the best treatment, organized everything as it related to her stay in the hospital. And again, it comes back to when I saw how he treated my loved ones, I knew he was the one for me.
That's so sweet. That is so sweet. Yeah. That is so sweet. Brent, how did you know Ellie was the one?
Me, it's pretty simple. It was Euro T. No, she
boy.
She carried me by her mom, and I got to taste the roti, and I know immediately she was the one. Okay, but seriously, I always like family. I like the idea of family. I didn't really grow up with that kind of family that she would have grown up with, and from what I've seen. But I always desired that family setting, to see how she would move with her family, the togetherness, how she would treat her nieces and nephews, take care of them, how she would, the love that was shown from just by looking at her, just by looking at how she functioned. Then, of course, I looked at the spiritual aspect, and going to church with her and seeing her function in that setting in church, and seeing the love that she had for God, I immediately knew, and she knew, she could tell me that I told her from day one that I'm going to marry her.
He did.
Okay. They usually say men know within the first 3 months. So he knew from the first day. So, wow. That's good. Yeah. That's good. All right. What's one of your partner's best qualities?
Anybody could go first?
Anybody could go first.
All right. So when you asked that question, the first thing that came to my mind that I appreciate in Brent is his desire and drive to provide. Because the background I come from, my father always provided for his children. He always found a way to provide for our needs and our wants. So I could say comfortably, we were never in want to say, not to say we were extremely rich or anything like that, but we were comfortable. And I knew that when I wanted to choose my husband or my partner, that person must make that transition smooth for me, what I was accustomed to. So Brent, anyone who knows Brent knows that he is a go-getter. He will find a way to make it work. And he has a real passion and desire to see me comfortable. He ensures that our home is well kept and well maintained. And he makes me feel secure. Security is really big for me, and I feel that with him. So his ability to provide in all aspects, financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, everything, he makes me feel secure in that aspect. So he's a provider. I appreciate that in him.
All right, Brent, what about you? What's one of the best qualities of Ellie?
Well, for me, I would say for sure is the support that I receive from my wife, and even before she became my wife. You know, I am big on support. I love a support system. I always say that, growing and developing as a man and being able to work as hard as I would want to, I need to have support. I need to have somebody at my back. I could bounce off stuff, bounce off ideas. I could say, well, if I say I go in X, Y, or Z, I would have somebody in my corner and they would say, hey, well, let's go, let's do it, or let's X, Y, or Z. So, the support and the what's the word? That whole formation there that creates the chemistry between us, that I know when it is I come to my wife, then it was my girlfriend. I know when I leave, I feel comfortable knowing that what I'm going to do, she has my back 100%. And then I don't have to worry about, okay, well, when I say, hey, I had to work late today because of X, Y, and Z, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, no trouble, no pressure. Just I have to know, of course, that, hey, you have this limit.
Correct.
You have a limit still. You can't overdo. So, you have to have that, you need to find that middle ground. But I appreciate from ever since the support that I received.
All right. Brent, this question is for you. What was it about marriage that was appealing to you? Like, why did you want to get married?
First of all, sharing your life with someone is, for me, I always grew up thinking that I just have to be able to experience what it's like to share my life with someone. You see, there's a background to it. I grew up in a home with a single parent, father alone. My dad grew me up from hello, never had mom there in the same house. And going to school and spending time among friends and seeing families and how they grow and what it's like to have to see our marriage function. And I always say, hey, you know, I want to experience marriage for myself, and I want to be able to raise a family for myself. And I mean, the Bible says that it's not good for a man to be alone. And God provide a helpmate, right? From back in the garden. So I mean, I say, but why would I want to remain single? Why would I want to delay this thing? As far as it is, I take too long to get married. I should have met her a long time and gotten married to her. But as God may have it, it happened in His perfect timing. And yeah, that really was one of my greatest desires. And of course, in marriage now, the fact that you have somebody at your side and you're able to share life with it also helps to build you now for eternity, because it's not you alone. You have a partner that you can work with, you can build with spiritually, because the whole idea of marriage, of course, firstly is towards God. We have to honor God. So, and our goal is to make it to heaven out before everything else. So when you have a partner at your side who have the same goal, and that's what I wanted. I mean, that was one of my greatest things. I want to be able to get a partner who have the same goal as me. Hey, it's heaven we aiming for him. And once you have that, hey, man, I say I want to be able to experience this thing, but I need to. Yeah.
I specifically directed that question to you because recently, you know, you've been hearing a lot of young people, especially young men. I mean, women too, but young men mostly, they don't want to get married. They don't want to, that is not for me. I don't want to do that. What is the purpose of that? Why must I be locked down with this one person for the rest of my life? So that's why I directed that question specifically to you, because I wanted to know, you know, what was your reason for wanting to get married?
Yeah.
All right. So next question. What's the first thing you noticed about your partner? Not I know you answered certain parts to this already, but what's the first thing, you know, from the time you saw that person, what was the first thing that you noticed about your partner? Ellie, you could go first.
So we're talking about physically noticing, right?
It could be physical, yeah.
Okay, so the first thing I noticed about him was his height. He is tall. So that caught my attention, first of all. And then what really struck me after that was his boldness, right? His ability to strike up a conversation very quickly. Because I remember the day when we met for the first time, he came to my church to visit. And I was just there sitting, talking to one of my girlfriends. And he was behind talking to his best friend. And while I was talking to her about something, Mr. Man found a way to slip himself in the conversation. And we began speaking so easily. It was so easy for us to converse. It wasn't forced. And from that moment, we didn't continue talking consistently, but when we did, it was just natural. It just continued progressing. When I began to learn him and I saw him for who he was, it just progressed naturally.
Nice. Brent, talk to me. What was the first thing you noticed? That first thing that, you know, you said, all right, I have to know this young lady. What was the first thing?
Well, first thing I noticed was
Stop yourself.
the sweet face. Oh, I could not help but notice the sweet face.
I knew it was coming, you know.
So you see this face, and you see this nice here and everything. When I see this face, I can help myself. That's the first thing I notice. I notice the face. And I say, well, why this? And the height. I love short girls. So when I saw her, I say, a woman that you're looking for to get married to, and she's short, she's sweet, nice hair. I say, wait. This had to be heaven. So I went, as they say, I shoot my shot. Things didn't go always as you wanted it to go, but you know, you try to make it happen. And then, of course, yeah, absolutely. First thing I noticed, but that was the first thing. But then when you get deeper into it, then you start to see the qualities. The first thing I noticed is the quality of the woman. When you get deeper in and you start to really look, to open your eyes to see, well, what kind of woman this is. When I started to see the quality of a woman, I say, well, that's a woman to be wife. So, yeah.
Nice. All right, I'm asking for a specific event here. What specific events that happened, throughout the courtship, throughout the dating period that made you say, I am in love with this person? Starting with you on this one, Brent.
Starting with me?
Yeah.
What specific event?
Yeah, that happened.
To say that I'm in love with her. I would say, I think I mentioned it before. She carried me home for the first time. And she carried me by some family also. And it's roti. I love roti. So when you love a woman and you get roti, that is the event. Now after that event, of course, comes the interaction. But the events are the top it off already. Because if you bring man again roti and a nice, a smiling, my face full.
Plug, ladies. The way to a man's heart is really through the stomach. Serious stuff.
No, and from that, I mean, everything else, but in that event, as we're talking about the roti, is the whole family setting. Now, I always tell her, because from day one, the more I speak about family. I'm big on family. I'm big on a support system. I'm big on having somebody at your side. So when I see the whole family setting, when I see how the interaction is happening, and I know the kind of background that from what you see in the family, you know what to expect, because she's growing up in that. And when I say family, I'm not speaking only about immediate family. I'm not speaking of mom and dad only, but I'm speaking about in-laws. I'm speaking about aunties and uncles and nieces, and then everybody is there. When you see that and then it repeats itself, then you see a trend. Yeah, I want to get in this. So yeah, that was the big thing for me.
All right, Ellie, what was your event?
I believe I would have mentioned it earlier as well. What I could recall was first thing that I could really remember that I solidified in my mind that this is the man I love, right? Was when my mom got sick. She had a stroke, and his mom works in the hospital. So he mobilized his mom one time. He started to make some calls to ensure that my mom received the best treatments in the hospital. Every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times for the day, we would be in and out of that hospital. We would have to clean her up, and me, but he would be there as support, going to clean her up, going to look after her, feed her, do everything, sometimes just to be there for her. And that really, as I said, compounded my love for him. And another thing that really stood out to me was, well, first of all, my love language is, what's my love language?
Quality time.
Quality time, right? So he knows that. And he is Mr. Busy. Mr. with a capital M, busy, right? Like I said, he's a go-getter. So he works and works and works, even to his detriment. He'll keep on working if you don't force him to stop sometimes, right? So he finished work 5, straight from work, he goes to the other job, and then he would come to me. That's when we were courting. And sometimes when he reached by me, he just came to sleep because he knew my love language was quality time. So he came, and I appreciated the fact that he came, because it meant that even though he was sleepy, sometimes he came and the eyes red, he's tired. When he reached, he just crawl out.
Yeah, go.
And he knock out. When he wake up, he eats, we talk for a little bit, we pray, going up the road, and the cycle repeated. And you know, those little things matter. I always tell him that. You see, those little things that sometimes we take for granted, those things matter. So when I saw the effort, first thing that really stood out to me was his effort and his love for my family. And then his effort that he made towards loving me. Man, I was sold. I was sold. I love both. Long time. After that, those little things, I go on. Click.
Oh, all right. This next question is in 2 parts. What's the best and or worst thing about being in a relationship? Now, people will tell me there's nothing bad about being in a relationship, about being married. I don't believe that at all, one bit. So what is the best thing about being married, and what's the worst thing about being married? Anybody could go first.
You want me to go first? All right, so I'll go first. So I would start with the worst first. And if I have to list something, I would say right now is adjusting, right? Because, you know, going from a household that was full, parents, siblings, grandparents, niece, nephew, a full household, to now coming in a home where it's just the 2 of us. And on top of that, he has a personality type that sometimes he just secludes himself. So I have to learn to give him his space as well. And I am accustomed to always being in somebody's space, or to always be interacting with somebody. That's how my family is. Always interacting with somebody. You never really stick up in a room by yourself. You're all that togetherness and family orientedness, if that's even a word, that always existed in my home. And you know, coming in my new home, that period of transition where I have to now learn when to be up under him, when to give him space. That transition of when I was in my parents' home, you know, not all the time I had to cook. Duties would have rotated between my mother, my sister, myself. Now I have to get up and cook all the time. I have to see about my home all the time. These are now my sole responsibilities. So that period of transition can be hard. It's not bad. But if I had to list something that is challenging, but it's not altogether horrible, I would say that adjustment period.
Mhm.
What's the best thing? Yes.
The best thing for me is companionship, because like I said, my parents are married for over 33 years, my grandparents over 60 years, right? So I come from a family where we stick it out and we make it work, marriages, that is. So the best thing about it is I now get to have my person. This is my person who God sent for me to spend my life with, and also the person who is sent to help me take me to heaven. Because I believe, as he would have said, marriage is more than just this life, right? Marriage is for eternity. So knowing that God specially designed somebody for me to share my life with, to create my family with, that you can't really get better than that, because no man is an island, and I don't intend to be alone. And that companionship, that support, everything that comes with a marriage, I love.
All right, Brent, talk to me. Best and worst thing about being in a relationship, being married.
Wait, sir. By pressure. It comes to the worst thing. Of course, I think it by now is obvious. The time factor. For me, the adjustment of that time it could be challenging. I can deal with it sometimes. Mentally having to know that, hey, the time doesn't belong to you anymore, and it's nothing about get up anymore and just press and go as you please and come back as you please, and you have nobody to answer to and all them kind of thing. No, it's not that, you don't have that no more. You have to, when you get up in the morning, you have to say, sweetheart, darling, what is the agenda for today? Anything that you want to do? Or they will say, okay, so what is your agenda for the day? And you have to work your agenda around them. And if it is the wife come and say, well, hey, I mean, learning about it and adjusting to it when you're not accustomed to it could be real difficult. So for me, I'm learning, and every day I'm trying to pray and ask God for the help to learn how to adjust, because it's not easy adjusting after. I mean, if you spend 30 how much years of your life doing things one way, and then you have to go and adjust it in a couple months, you don't expect that to happen overnight. That's not going to happen. That's going to be difficult. So yeah, but the better part of it, of course, in the marriage is the fact that, I mean, my wife mentioned it, the fact that you have somebody at your side, you have help now. Man, I looked forward to that for a long time in my life, even though the time, and I like the time alone, and I like the aspect of getting up and going and coming back. The fact that I know I have somebody here who will help me. From my first month of marriage, man, I said, Jesus, I really take long here, boy. Because the fact that I like waking up in the morning or going on my lunch, or whether it's lunchtime on a weekend or whatever, and I know, well, hey, I waking up again, I'll breakfast,
sure.
my lunch, and all kind of thing. And now,
Will there be sugar?
Yeah, but I mean, you have a person at your side, you could function with them, you could do so much with them, you could build. The future just looks bright, and we don't know what the future holds, but you know that with God and that person at your side, it looks promising. So I really appreciate that more than anything else, man.
I always say that that same sentiments After you spend 30 how much years by yourself, doing what you want, just picking up and going, basically nobody to answer to. That adjustment period must be hard. Must be tough. Really, really be tough.
Yeah.
All right. This question is in 3 parts.
Wow.
It's about advice. So it's what's the worst advice you have gotten, what's the best advice you've gotten, and what advice do you wish you had gotten? So the worst, the best, and what you wish you were told before getting into marriage. Starting with you, Brent.
Good job.
And the worst advice that I get before I get married is, boy, you sure you want to go down that road, boy? That woman has real problems, boy.
Wow.
Woman has real problems, boy. I go wait on you. I go see you coming back and check with you. You come and tell me how hard it is. And you're ready to give up. Why we go come and knock to beer with you or some kind of thing. Like if I just drink, I don't even drink. But I mean, men tell you all kind of things when it is they know that you get married. And boy, men say, boy, woman is real hell, you know. Woman is real stress. You ain't want to go down that road. Don't go on to that. But they just stay in a relationship. All kind of things they will tell you. But and I never really take on that to say because I always say when I reach any fire, then I go experience it for myself. I not go and take on nobody telling me. So I never really allow that to really harm me anyway or disturb my way of thinking. The best advice that I would have received before got married was a couple of things. A few of them was like along the lines of, what I would have done. There's so much negativity when it comes to people and young people getting married. So what I used to do is I would go and look for people who married for umpty amount of years, the older heads, and I used to speak to them, sit down with them, look at you would pick and choose which relationship, which persons, and based on this relationship you would have seen. I mean, you can't tell everything, but they married 30 years. I would go and speak to them, and the sentiments was the same throughout. One, keep God at the center of your marriage. Don't forget God at the center of your marriage. Two, try to please your wife. Make sure your wife happy. A happy wife. Men always said that, and I always wondered what it meant. Until I get married, I had to know that a happy wife is a happy life, and that's facts. Whether you want to believe it, no matter how you spin it, your wife in your home. If I'm not wrong, even Ellen G. White mentioned that husbands should in Adventist home. If I'm not wrong, I think I remember reading that the atmosphere, when she speaks about the atmosphere of the home, she gives counsel as it relates to that. How the woman should be and how the man should be, also they should treat the wife in the home and stuff like that. So you have to make sure that your wife is happy, and I really took those counsels to heart, and I try my best to ensure that the wife is happy in the home and everything, and to keep God at the center. So those things really stuck with me, and I try to use that as a stepping stone for everything else. As it relates to what advice I wish I got before marriage, I honestly can't think about anything. Reason being, looking at the idea of marriage before actually getting into anything close to wanting to get married, just the idea was a big thing for me. The reason why I say that, I used to talk to God and tell him, hey, this is my desire, X, Y, and Z is the case. I want X, Y, and Z. You are to bless me. You are to take away this. You are to move that. You are to this, that, the other. So what I went and do is that I identified, and I would have spoke to my then girlfriend, now wife, about, I say, listen, I want to do pre-engagement counseling. So what we would have done, and it's not something that you hear about people talk about in counseling, premarital counseling. I was never interested in premarital counseling. I was interested in pre-engagement counseling because, man, I wanted to know everything that I ain't too sure about, that the pastor will talk about, that the things that I may not observe or get into, the whatever it is they speak about. I know waiting until I get engaged to find out that, hey, we go in and fight about this, or we don't agree on this, or we don't agree on that, and all this kind of thing. So I kind of wanted to know, what am I really going to get into? Who is this woman that I go in and get into? Because we just kind of lose track fast when they fall in love. I always try not to lose track. So when it comes to what piece of advice that I wish that I got, I think all that we would have gone through so far, meaning through pre-engagement and counseling after in premarital, that it's there. All the stuff that we speak about is there because we have had an extensive discourse on it and try to cover as much area and importantly to be real about each other. So yeah.
Ellie, my dear.
Yes. So I'll start where he left off because he stole my answer, right? What piece of advice I wish that I got before I got married? That was my answer. And him saying that and me saying this is not claiming to say we know everything or we have the perfect relationship or the perfect marriage or anything of the sort, because that's far from the truth. But we wanted at an early stage to know if it even made sense, right? When we were in a relationship, we wanted to know if it made sense. He wasn't in the business of wasting my time or his time. Same for myself, right? And oftentimes, just a little side note, when we do premarital counseling, after you get engaged, at that time you're already headstrong, make up your mind, come hell or high water, no matter what the pastor says sometimes, you're still going to marry that person. So before there were too many strings attached, and before, we got so deep into it that we wasted each other's time per se, we wanted to know what this thing is about, and we wanted to know if we were right for each other. So, as he said, before we even got engaged, we were in counseling sessions. And after we got engaged in counseling sessions, and it doesn't even stop after marriage, right? So the advice is always coming in, and I always thank my pastors, the different persons who give us advice, elders, the stalwarts in the church. Sometimes it's just a passing word that they give you, appropriate for your situation at that time, right? It sounds cliche, but it's our reality, right? So I think we heard it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm bursting my brain here trying to figure out what I could tell you for that question. But as it relates to the best piece of advice that I would have gotten during one of our counseling sessions was, the closer you grow to God, is the closer you consequently get to each other. And you remember the triangulatory diagram that we did. So the pastor made us draw a triangle, and God is at the apex, and we are at the two edges to the bottom. And you're furthest from each other when you are furthest from God. But as you two approach the top, you grow closer to God, and you consequently grow closer to each other. And that's the best thing that when I heard that, I will never forget it. True. I was so excited. I shared that with everybody I knew. I asked my father, I said, Daddy, you know this? And I drew the diagram for everybody, because it was so amazing. You don't think of these things, but God designed it in such a way. God is so merciful and so thoughtful that he designed it in such a way that he thought about us, that even while we are personally or individually getting closer to him, we consequently get closer to each other. So any young person, any older person, I would say, never forget that. Because when you're treating each other bad, when you're quick to give a hostile answer, when you're getting upset easily, know that you're far from God. We don't like to hear it, but it's the reality. You're far from God. And I'm talking to myself first. When you see those things manifesting, that is not like God, and you're treating your partner as such, it means you're very far from God. Right? So that's the best piece of advice that I would have gotten. And the worst, the worst piece of advice, basically along the same lines of him, but not even advice. I would say just, come up in conversation where people heckling you and stuff like that. You're sure you want to get married. Why you want to get married so young? Why you want to tie yourself down so young? Why you want to commit so young? Live your life. So much experiences. You're a strong, independent woman. Pursue your studies before you settle down to get married. Those things that just comes up in conversation. I would say once you know what you want and you are ready, emotionally, spiritually, otherwise, and marriage is for you, by all means. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask my final question for the night, but you all answered that already, which is what advice you would have given to persons, looking to get into marriage, to get into, that courtship stage and such. And I believe you guys answered that beautifully. Couldn't ask for a better explanation of what marriage is and how, make God the center. And without God, really, I'm not sure how marriages work without God. Mm-hmm. I really don't know. But you guys have shared a lot with us, a lot of food for thought, and I am thankful for that. I thank you guys for coming out. I'm sorry for interrupting your sleep, but thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for doing this tonight. And those who are listening, I appreciate you guys for listening and being here with us, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry